Thank you.
There is one host and 5 participants in this conference.
I'm on the phone lines and 3 of us here. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, 4 of us here. I didn't count me. 3 of you here. Thank you. I was going over some of my notes, trying to see what maybe the topic was for today. Notes that I take from the tapes, from the audios during the week. And the crux. The motorcycles are gone. Joel said a couple of weeks ago, the only reason there is any sin, disease, death, lack, or limitation on earth is because of the lack of God realization. The barrier preventing heaven on earth is the lack of realization of God. Please get that realization means to make real in our life and in our experience. Believing in 2 powers means believing in what? Believing in 2 powers means believing in a not God. Believing that an omnipotent, omnipresent God is not real. So if we believe in the power of anything, the power of germs, the power of disease, the power of Chubb to hypnotize us, the power of anything at all, we are not believing in an omnipotent, omnipresent God. Eliminating disharmony means eliminating all belief that anything other than God is real. So, that says it so clearly. And then the other day he said, we've been hypnotized for hundreds of generations to look at the objective world and accept it at face value. Which means believing things are things and they are what they look like, and that disease has power and germs have power, and blah, 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 blah. We've been taught to judge by appearances. Then he says, the path is difficult. It is almost impossible. And only the few attain the ability to look behind the appearance and discern the impersonal nature of what is operating. And that's the whole thing. And it is so hard. It is, almost impossible, he said. And I've been having some things that I've been dealing with now for 3 years or 4 years, I guess. I had one stretch and then a period off, and then I've been dealing with something for almost a year now. And I think I work very hard. And yet clearly I don't work hard enough, because if I believed all the stuff that we've taught in this class, then my experience would be different. I mean, if I realized, if I made real all the stuff that has been taught in this class, then my experience would be different, would not have been what it has been for the past, especially the past 6 months. And I see it in lots of other people, so many of us. It seems to be, this seems to be the center of my work. The work is to find out, is to find ways of breaking through this disbelief and realizing the presence of God, and finding ways to do that. And I've been frankly failing to do that. We talked on the phone, and last week there were 3 very clear cases, I thought, of people that were making breakthroughs, and yet, that notwithstanding, everybody's pretty much at the same point this week that they were last week. We're just not doing enough work to change our level of consciousness. And I was talking with somebody today who's been involved in what appears to be a deteriorating situation for a while, and the only reason that the situation can be deteriorating, can appear to be deteriorating, is that the consciousness is not changing. In fact, the consciousness is losing ground rather than gaining ground if the situation is deteriorating. So I looked at that, and I was reminded when I was talking to her there's a Joel audio, one of the early ones, in which he talks about his first tuberculosis case. And this woman had been put in the tuberculosis center where they put them in, while waiting for them to die. They'd given up on her, and they were waiting for her to die. And she was brought to him, and he started working on her, and he did not have an instantaneous healing. And what he tells us is that over the next 13 months, he wrote her a letter every day about truth, I presume. And he said in a later audio that the letters were from 4 to 20 pages. Okay? So Joel wrote 4 to 20 pages every day of truth about the untruth of tuberculosis. And it took him 13 months of this kind of work before he broke the case of tuberculosis, which means before he broke his belief in tuberculosis, before he raised his own consciousness high enough that he lifted her above her appearance of tuberculosis. And that's an incredible amount of work. 4 to 20 pages of written letter every day for 13 months is what it took Joel. Now, Joel has already had his enlightenment experience, and Joel is already healing, having lots of instantaneous healing, lots of cases of various types of healing. And still, that was the kind of work he has to do it. And what I'm getting from all this is that I don't do enough work, and that I need to do more work, and also that I need to find ways to present this more clearly and present it in a more orderly fashion, and find ways to help those who are doing the classwork or listening to the audios or joining in the community to help all of us find ways to do more work and find ways to lift ourselves higher. And I frankly just don't know what that is yet. I'm just stymied. I see. I was telling this person, I have a friend who goes to the doctor whenever there's a difficulty that needs to be taken care of, and the difficulties continue to come along, one after another, after another, and there's no sign that will ever stop. And I, on the other hand, have been taking the position of standing firm and not going to doctors and not using medications, and standing firm and being like a rock, which is what I thought Joel said we should do, and stand firm and wait for the truth to break. And I've had lots of spiritual teachers tell me that was what should be done, and I wound up being forced to go to a doctor, and of course the problem that I brought to the doctor appeared to be a great deal worse than the problem that I would have been had I brought it to them a year earlier. So going to the doctor doesn't seem to be working, and not going to the doctor doesn't seem to be working, and I'm just, really at a point where it's very clear I don't know yet. And it's also very clear to me that this is the work I'm doing here this lifetime. This is the work that I'm doing. I don't know whether it will ever be brought to some successful conclusion, but obviously this is where my spiritual work is, and I'm doing a lot of spiritual work, although apparently not enough. And so this is the game I'm playing, and what needs to happen, I think, so many people that are calling me, there are several people who call me regularly, and we seem to be sort of maintaining a status quo, but not making much progress spiritually. If you're in a situation and it's deteriorating, the correct answer to that, according to the infinite way, which I still trust completely, is to do more spiritual work. That what needs to change is your consciousness. More of your own individual God nature must be realized until we realize enough that we don't have the apparent affliction or problem or lack or whatever it is. And so I keep getting driven to I especially need to do more work, but I'm forced to conclude that none of us are doing enough work to get free, and that's what this work is all about, of course. I was talking to a person who was in a script event, and in fact, talking to her, that was what brought up the tuberculosis thing, the script event. We started script work in 1997, so we've been doing script and kid work for 21 years, and off and on, but there's probably been 10 different levels of script and kid work, and almost nobody is script free, and almost nobody is completely free of, we may be free of the worst script that we had, but we still have another script lurking around here and there, and it's still determining our life. And once again, I was talking to this person, I was saying, what you need to do is write to your kid, if necessary, 4 to 20-page letters, if necessary, for 13 months, until you raise your own consciousness to the level that you no longer believe the script. And of course, the letters of that extent aren't necessary, but the fact is that, let's take my original fundamental script, was I will never be accepted. If I were still experiencing any I would never be accepted script, then I would go to the spiritual truth and I would write down some spiritual truths. And the spiritual truth is that I'm an expression of God in all its glory, and a necessary expression of God for it to completely express all its glory, and therefore unacceptable is not possible. The only one that can be unacceptable is this personal sense of Lee, and this personal sense of Lee is just not real. And there's a similar case that I made the argument, and the argument came, well, the kid wouldn't believe that. And I said, yeah, I understand that, but what we need to do is write that every day and make a case for it every day. Make a case that your script is not possible because of the spiritual truths involved. And the spiritual truth always that breaks any script, that makes any script impossible, is that I am an expression of God. Part of God's expressing its own fulfillment and glory and bliss and everything else. So going back over the preceding 15 weeks of tapes, there's plenty of audios from classes, there's plenty of material there. But I could make a case, and I could make it every day differently, and Joel assures us that if we start making a case, writing it out, this is writing it out, and that as we write it out, more thoughts would come. You've heard him say many times that if you start on a meditation and just recite a truth a few times, then another one will come unbidden to you. And so if we start writing truths about the spiritual truth about our script, then more truths will come to us if we do this for a while. And the answer is to do this every day until the belief in the script is broken, until the truth of what we're writing is realized, i.e. is made real in our own experience. In my experience, I have to make the impossibility of my being unacceptable real to me. And when that happens, then my elevation is high enough that my kid gets lifted. You can believe it, because my belief is so strong and so firm that the kid can be lifted. So, I'm thinking that we need to work at that, well, I know that we need to work at that kind of level if we intend to make significant progress. And so my answer to me is I need to increase my work, and my answer to you is if you want your experience to change, you need to increase the amount of work you're doing and the regularity of it. So I started going back over the previous 15 classes, I guess there are 2 or 3 days ago, and making notes from them, not transcribing them, but making notes from them and upgrading my notes, because I want to come back with the best possible presentation of all of this information that I can. And I noticed, that like on week 2 there were 10 people on the phone, and 6 of us here, and another week there were 8 on the phone, and 5 or 6 of us here, and now we're down to 5 on the phone, and 4 of us here. And at the beginning of the meditation, there were only 4 on the phone and 2 of us here, so even getting here in time, even the respect for the meditation is not strong enough. So, we're down from 16 to 8 or 9, and consistently it's like 7 or 8 or 9. So I think what I want to do is take a break now, from now until mid-September. And in mid-September, hopefully we'll start a new class of some sort, and I will have spent the 2 months going over all this material and trying to find a better way of presenting it, and try to find new inspiration, and try to find greater clarity myself, and primarily try to find greater altitude myself, because only by finding greater altitude myself am I going to be able to present classes that lift other people to a higher altitude. So my plan, I think, is to take a 2-month break, and we'll start back up in the middle of September. There will be a email letter announcing that, and hopefully it will be a different kind of class, and hopefully I will have some new insight on how to do more work and inspire myself and others to new levels of understanding and endeavor. And I don't even know what the class might be. It might just be the same class given again, the same truths given again, but presented in a simpler way. I hope to, during the 2 months, to get inspiration as to what to do with this stuff. Last time before the class, I got presented with like 15 pages of notes to be included in the class, but that's all been given. All the information is on the audios that are on the website. So the class has been presented as it is, and hopefully there's a higher class or a newer class or a better level class coming that will help us do this work, but you know, it's not getting done, either in me or in most of you, I think. So anyway, that's what's going to happen. This will be the last class until the new announcement comes out. But please understand, I am absolutely delighted to work with any of you individually. Anybody that's hearing this or picks up the audio later, you know, you can get in touch with me by email and ask questions or talk. And you know, Joel used to write scads of people every day, so I'd be happy to take a letter, take email from anybody that wants to talk about stuff. And if it's more complicated than is easy by email, I will set up a phone date and we'll talk. And there are currently 2 people who call me every day and sit in meditation for 5 minutes, and another one calls intermittently and sits with me in meditation. So if you want to just sit in the silence with me, you can call almost any time between 11 in the morning and 8 at night, and I'll put on the timer and we'll just sit quietly for 5 minutes. And so I'm definitely available to you by email or phone or sitting in the silence. So please take advantage of that during this period. But let's all hope that by stopping this class, we can make room for a new and higher one to come through. And so that's the end of that, I think. Hang on a second, let's see.